Chapter 5. And they came over to the other side of the sea, into the country of the Gadarenes. And when he had come out of the ship, immediately there met him, from out of the tombs, a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no man could bind him, no, not with chains, because he had been often bound with fetters and chains, and the chains had been plucked off by him, and the fetters broke in pieces, neither could any man tame him. And always, night and day, he was in the mountains, and in the tombs, crying and cutting himself with stones. But when he saw Jesus far off, he ran and worshipped him, and cried with a loud voice, and said, What have I to do with you, Jesus, you Son of the Most High God? I admonish you by God that you torment me not. For he said to him, Come out of the man, you unclean spirit. And he asked him, What is your name? And he answered, saying, My name is Legion, for we are many. And he pleaded with him greatly, that he would not send them away out of the country. Now there was nearby in the mountains a great herd of swine feeding. And all the devils pleaded with him, saying, Send us into the swine, so that we may enter into them. And so Jesus gave them permission. And the unclean spirits went out, and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000, and were choked in the sea. And those that fed the swine fled, and told about this in the city, and in the country. And they went out to see what it was that was done. And they came to Jesus, and saw the man that was possessed with the devil, and had the legion, now sitting, and clothed, and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And they were told how it had happened to the man that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. And they began to plead with him to depart out of their coast. And when he had come into the ship, he that had been possessed with the devil asked him if he might go with him. However, Jesus did not permit him, but said to him, Go home to your friends, and tell them what great things the Lord has done for you, and has had compassion on you. And he departed, and began to spread the news in Decapolis, what great things Jesus had done for him, and all men marveled. And when Jesus had passed over again by ship to the other side, many people gathered to him, and he was near to the sea. And then one of the rulers of the synagogue came, Jairus by name, and when he saw him, he fell at his feet, and pleaded with him greatly, saying, My little daughter lies at the point of death. I pray, come and lay your hands on her, so that she may be healed, and she will live. And Jesus went with him, and many people followed him, and crowded around him. And a certain woman which had had an issue of blood for 12 years, and had suffered many things at the hands of many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was no better, but rather grew worse, when she had heard of Jesus, came in the press behind, and touched his garment. For she said, If I may only touch his clothes, I shall be made whole. And right away the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed from that plague. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned around in the crowd and said, Who touched my clothes? And his disciples said to him, You see the multitude thronging you, and you say, Who touched me? And he looked around to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had been done in her, came and fell down before him, and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, Daughter, your faith has made you whole. Go in peace, and be whole from your plague. While he yet spoke, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house certain which said, "Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the master any further?" As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, "Do not be afraid, only believe." And he did not permit any man to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And he went to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and saw the crowd, and those that wept and wailed greatly. And when he went in, he said to them, "Why do you make this ado and weep? The young woman is not dead, but only sleeping." And they laughed him to scorn. But when he had put them all out, he took the father and the mother of the damsel, and those that were with him, and entered in where the damsel was lying. And he took the damsel by the hand, and said to her, "Talitha cumi," which is interpreted, "Damsel, I say, rise up." And right away the damsel rose up and walked, for she was 12 years of age. And they were astonished with great astonishment. And he instructed them clearly that no man should know about it, and commanded that something should be given to her to eat.